What is going on, YouTube people? Today, we are talking about whatnot, repacks, and the insanity, whatnot flipping. I mean, just all of it. All of it. The last couple weekends, I have been poking around on whatnot. And I'm not knocking the platform, any of the sellers, nothing. They are providing a product and people are buying it. My goal here was, we've been talking for months now about these people walking around card shows buying up all this inventory, paying strong 80%, 85%, 90, 95%. And the question has always been, where is all this stuff going? This stuff's getting all bought up as fast as they possibly can. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. It's probably going to be like a two-part video, but I kind of want to lay out everything in this one. People are buying up all this stuff. Where is it all going was the key question. And, the general guess, and it was a very accurate and educational guess, is, whatnot to repackers and to people flipping singles on auctions over on whatnot. Whatnot, Fanatics Live, TikTok, those are not places as a middle-aged white man that I go hang out on very often. That stuff, to me anyway, seems like it's for the kids. I don't know that it is or not. I don't have demographics on whatnot and live streaming platforms. I know most of my audience, just based off comments, doesn't spend a lot of time over there. So I said, you know what? All right, you're sitting around watching basketball or doing whatever. I would fire up whatnot and just kind of cruise around the app, like 10, 15-minute chunks at a time over the course of, probably about 6 or 7 different days over the course of the last 2 weeks. Just to kind of get a feel for what's going on over there. So that's my limited experience over there. I didn't buy anything, didn't buy in any breaks, just watched. One, the number of people on that platform at any given time is a lot. I mean, you're talking about dozens and dozens of rooms with anywhere from a couple dozen people to 300 to 400 people in any given room, especially on the bigger sellers like Bleacher and Backyard and We the Hobby and a few others. The amount of transactions that are going on over there is absolutely insane. The number of, and I'm going to focus in on repacks. There are a lot of like 99-cent auctions and all that stuff for kind of like lower end stuff, but the number of repacks moving over there are absolutely wild. And these are professionally put together products. They are boxed, they are named, they are by sport, they are multi-sport in some cases. I joked on Twitter over the weekend, are these drug names from The Wire? Or are these repack names? Emerald, Venom, The Bomb, Nitro, Flamethrower, Kryptonite, Cardboard Combat. I could see Bodie and the boys on The Wire slinging that stuff in season 2 back in the late 90s, early 2000s when The Wire was on TV. These are all boxed up. They look real nice. And these are I didn't sit down and watch full breaks of this stuff, but the way they are laying them out anyway is if you were going to do a repack, the way to do it. They have X number of boxes. They give a floor. They give a ceiling. They give an average. They sell all the boxes during a single live stream and open all the boxes on the same live stream. I'm not a big repack guy. I've never bought a repack a single day of my life. I've never even considered buying a repack. But if I was going to get into something like that, that is the sort of thing that I would look for. On the screen here, I laid out, and I didn't want to pick on any one particular seller or anything, but this was just one that I picked out and was one of the larger ones. This was also one of the more expensive repacks that I came across, but I think it proves a point. They had 100 spots in this repack. The average value per slot was about $2,800 based off comps. The floor was $1,100. The ceiling was $21,000. There was a $20K chaser card in this product. I don't know what it was. Like I said, I didn't sit and watch the whole thing. These were selling for $32.50 a spot. If you do the real rough numbers, let's assume they had to pay 100% comps just for the hell of it. Now, odds are they probably paid less than that, probably between 80 and 90, but then you got to pay your buyer, and you got various other fees and expenses associated in there. So let's just assume 100% comps they paid for this product, and that covers them on whatever they had to pay their buying agent and any of that sort of nonsense in there. Plus, travel to the shows with their front and travel to the shows and all that. So let's assume maybe they actually bought at 90, but that extra 10% is covering all their expenses. I don't think it's costing them that much, but let's just, I kind of want to assume on the high side. So they're selling it. That's $278,000 in product that they bought to make one repack to sell on one Saturday night. $280,000 in inventory. And remember, this just isn't, when you see people buying at 80 to 95% comps, they don't want your base Bobby Witt PSA 10. They want good stuff. They want Stroud silvers. The floor on this product was $1,100. A Stroud silver wouldn't even make the cut on this. So now, imagine walking into a show and you need $300,000 worth of inventory with a minimum selling price of around $1,000 a card. Now, they probably built this product after they had the inventory. They probably said, okay, here's what we got. Here's our high-end one that we're putting together. Here's our medium one that we're putting together, so on and so forth. But you get my point. When we talk about where are all these slabs going and stuff like this, this was one stream for one big breaker on one Saturday night. They needed $300,000 in inventory. There are tons of different rooms running on Whatnot at any one given time. This isn't even including Fanatics Live. This isn't even including TikTok. They were selling them for $32.50 a spot. That means they got $325,000 in revenue. That is $47,000 in, I'm going to use air quotes, profit here, because I don't know what they're paying Whatnot in selling fees. I don't know that back end. This was one of the larger sellers on the platform. I am sure they have negotiated a better rate than most. If anyone has any insight on what Whatnot's cut looks like for a large volume seller, then, factor that off there. Maybe it's 10%. I don't know. I can't imagine it's much more than that. I just looked. It looks like it's about 10%. It says Whatnot takes an 8% commission, and then there's a 2.9% transaction fee. So that's about 11%. But I have heard that number is negotiable to some degree. And if you are a massive power seller, you're probably getting a better rate than that. But let's assume 10%. So knock another 10% off there. That's a real nice chunk of change for little to no overhead and shipping and sitting there and running the break. Is it a lot of work? I'm sure it is. I've never done it. Being on camera for 4 to 6 hours, that would really take it out of you, because it did take them a while to sell all these. I mean, they sold quick, one right after another, but when you're selling 100 spots, that takes time. Then you got to open 100 different products. Then you got to ship all that stuff. I mean, you're talking about a decent chunk of time, but still, even if you got a team of people, if you got 3 people, and let's say it takes you 12 hours to sell it, stream it, ship it, rip it, the whole 9 yards, that's a pretty good chunk of change for one night. One night. Now, once again, this is a larger product, more expensive product. The margins are probably going to be a lot higher. And I'm making a lot of assumptions here. But you get my point. There are tons of other rooms selling tons of other repacks from the $1,000 range, the $500 range, the $100 range, all the way up to $3,200. The other thing that is absolutely wild is if you just sit there and read what people are putting in chat, it really makes you feel sad, honestly, about kind of where we are right now. And like I said, everyone's an adult. The amount of degeneracy going on in that chat. People saying, I'm down $3,000 the last 3 days. I can't buy into this one. People jokingly saying, I would love to buy into this, but if my wife found out, like, they're joking, but are they? A lot of, I'm down thousands. I don't know that I could get into this one. It is the Wild West on that platform in more ways than one. Once again, hey, they're putting out a product. No one has a gun to their head whether or not they want to buy into this thing or not. But the amount of feeding on the gambling-like nature of all this is absolutely wild. It is 1,000% an unregulated casino. 1,000%. You're talking about random teams. You're talking about you don't know what thing the chaser's in. Just all of it. And people will ask, why do people buy into this stuff? Why do they choose to go to these repack products? One, we just talked about it. The gambling-like nature. People want to feed that itch. They're addicted. The other thing is, and I'd be real curious to see how the manufacturers feel about this, because this is something they have to figure out. The repacks are straight up, without whether you believe this or not, clearly the market has chosen. You scroll Whatnot, there is way more people breaking repacks than wax. Way more. Way more repacks sell than boxes of cards. Now, maybe that's a little bit of the time. And what I mean by that is there's not a hot new release right now. We're kind of in a little bit of a dead period. Bowman's about to come out. I assume when Bowman releases, all those rooms will be flooded with Bowman case breaks and all that. But the reason this stuff is so popular is because the experience of ripping this is better than ripping wax from Panini and Topps. Really what it comes down to. That is the bottom line. The addictive-like nature of the gamble and the fact that the gamble is honestly better on this than on a $1,000 box of Prism. I mean, just look at this one. Okay, let's just say it's $3,000 to get in. Your floor is $1,100. Your average is $2,781. If I bought 3 boxes of Prism basketball to chase Victor at, I don't know what they're going for right now. You probably get 3.5 boxes for $3,000. I think they're probably like $800 a box. I haven't looked for a long time, but you get my point. Would you rather have 3 boxes of Prism basketball and maybe a couple mega boxes or something on top to equal out the value, or buy into this break? Which one do you think you have a better chance at coming out even close to even on? It's 100% this. And I don't know how the manufacturers fix it. But I'd be curious. I mean, I guess from like a Fanatics standpoint on Fanatics Live, I guess they don't care whether you're buying sealed wax or a repack because they're making a percentage off the sale anyway. So what do they care? Obviously, it's better for them if you're buying boxes of Topps product, but because they're making a larger percentage on that. But imagine this. Now, this was on Whatnot. Let's assume Whatnot's getting the full cut. On a one-night stream, all Whatnot's doing, they're obviously providing all the back-end support. They're doing a lot, don't get me wrong. But that's $325,000. And Whatnot's taking 10% of that. Obviously, it's not going to be a full 10% because, like we just discussed, the selling fees are very negotiable on the high end of that. So, Whatnot made a ton of money off that, assuming, depending on the fees. The other big assumption here is that they paid 100% comps, and I don't think they probably did. Probably more likely 80 to 90, especially on high end stuff. Higher end stuff's trickier to move. So that's another 10 to 15% that could potentially be in there. And even if they're only making, let's call it 15,000 after Whatnot fees, handful of people doing this, they've already paid the buyer out. Let's say you got 3 people. You got one on camera, maybe someone that's assisting on camera, and then you got a back end person that's handling a bunch of nonsense. Maybe it's a bigger operation. That, like I said, I'm just kind of speculating here. And let's say you pull in 32K in sales, Whatnot takes 10%. You're still netting out about $15,000 for a single Saturday night, split 3 ways, and you're doing this day after day after day after day, hour after hour after hour. That's why you see all these buyers running around gobbling up inventory, because you need the inventory to feed this beast. That's all I got for today's video. More on this topic. I have kind of a part 2 that I want to do on this, and it kind of goes around, what happens if this slows down? What happens if the music stops? To steal a little line from Margin Call. What happens when the music stops, or even just slows down a little bit, for whatever reason? Is the whole thing just a house of cards? That's what we're going to talk about in part 2 of this. Hopefully it's tomorrow. We'll see if something wild and crazy happens. It might get delayed, but there will be kind of a part 2 to this. That's all I got. Catch boys and girls on the next one. Peace.